In voice training, how much emphasis should be placed on learning to breathe correctly? Well, what you'll find is that the answers to this question will vary greatly from teacher to teacher and methodology to methodology. We have those in this camp over here who present effective breath management as being everything. It's presented as the sort of panacea of all vocal ills, and that every single thing that could possibly be wrong with the singer's technique boils down to poor management of the breath. And then there are those in this camp over here who don't want to talk about the breath at all. They believe that the breath will just sort of sort itself out. It'll just figure itself out over time if they get some other things right. And what you'll find with me is I'm a little bit middle of the road when it comes to this topic. I do firmly believe that effective management of our breath is absolutely critical to our being able to make the kinds of sounds that we want to make in a healthy, skillful, sustainable, and artistically effective manner. However, I also understand that there needs to be a little bit of balance in our focus, because when we find ourselves on either extreme here, our focus can sometimes get misplaced, and we can find ourselves sort of treading water, technically speaking, because our focus is not where it actually needs to be. When I'm working with singers, I observe very closely and I listen really intently, and I determine whether or not their vocal faults have anything to do with poor management of the breath. And I can tell when they do and don't. If they do, that's when we roll up our sleeves and we start directly working on breath. We do exercises. We work on focusing on the coordination and improving that coordination. But if they don't, if that singer's intuitive way of supporting his or her tone is adequate, then I generally leave it well enough alone, because I don't want to tinker and try to fix what ain't broke. Because if I unnecessarily place emphasis on the breath, that can lead the singer to losing the coordination that's otherwise working effectively. And so there are some singers who do indeed have difficulties finding good coordination when it comes to the breath, and the ways in which they sort of intuitively support their tones don't work very effectively. They're not helping them to reach their singing goals, to meet their artistic needs. And for those singers, more emphasis needs to be placed on the breath. They need to do some active breath work. But for some singers, we can just work on the breath indirectly. Or we can just leave it well enough alone because it's working adequately. And again, it's really all about balance in our focus. We don't want to place ourselves on any extremes. Any kind of extreme in our pedagogical or training focus tends not to work very effectively for us. It doesn't help us meet our artistic or training needs or goals. And so if we place too much emphasis on the breath and on what our bodies are trying to do, we tend to try to micromanage every aspect of our technique. We're overanalyzing everything in real time, and sometimes that can work against us, because then we're trying to override things that are otherwise working naturally and effectively for us. And then if we ignore the breath altogether and we take a more, we'll say, laissez-faire attitude when it comes to any kind of technique, really any aspect of technique, then that can leave us feeling like we're sort of trying to train our voices in the dark, not really having a clear sense of direction or focus. So I feel as though the best place for us to be is on neither one of those extremes, but to be somewhere in the middle with a very flexible approach and a willingness to be flexible in our focus. There may be times when we do indeed need to direct our attention a little bit more to one aspect of our technique or another. And I think that's a healthier, more flexible and balanced way of approaching singing technique and learning how to sing. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please take a moment to click the thumbs up button to let me know that you appreciated the content, and also consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks so much for watching.